Hello, everyone, and welcome to Flawless, a music podcast. My name is Liam, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Grant.
Hello, music fans.
Oh, I sprung that on you. Thought George was going to be first. George.
Hello, music lovers.
Each episode, one of the hosts or a guest nominates an album that they think is flawless, and we talk about why they love it, what they love about it, and at the end we decide if we agree that it's flawless. We have a Facebook group. It's called Flawless Friends and Family, and we'd love for you to join. Tell us what you think about your favorite albums, your favorite episodes of Flawless. You can find us at facebook.com/groups/Flawless Friends and Family, or just use the link in the show notes. It's much quicker. And we also have a Patreon. You can back us from as little as $1 a month, and no matter how much you back us for, you'll get access to all our special bonus episodes. You can find us at patreon.com/flawlessamp. Bonus episodes, which we promise we'll get better at because we've been a bit slack this year. But we'll
Blame COVID.
New Year's resolution, we'll get better.
Sure.
We need a bit more Patreon. That's what we need.
True.
True.
More
Incentive.
motivation.
Incentive.
So, for today's episode, we have a guest.
Yes.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Kelly. I am an ex-Brisbaneite that now lives in Adelaide.
Oh.
I do fancy stuff in science communication and social media, but I also do other things like listen to music occasionally.
Nice.
Awesome.
That helps.
And also, how do I know you?
Through the power of the internet, aka Twitter.
Yes, because you run the...
Oh.
Yeah.
I run a rotation creation account called We Are Brisbane.
Yeah, you do.
So you can check that out on Twitter. It's an awesome account that George and I have both managed for a few weeks each. And Grant, you should take it over 1 week.
Probably should.
So, Kelly, would you like to let us know what album you are nominating for this episode?
So today I'll be nominating White Pony by Deftones.
Woo! Mic drop.
Fantastic. So, White Pony is the third studio album by American alternative metal band Deftones that was released on June 20 in 2000 through Maverick Records.
That's like the most formal description
That
I've
is
ever
How
heard.
good.
That is literally the first line from the wiki entry, which is always the first line that I've got written on my notes.
That's really funny. That's
So-
just like the driest I've ever heard anyone describe Deftones before.
You gotta build it up. You gotta build it up.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, well, we'll build it from here.
Kelly, how did you encounter this album? How did you first discover Deftones and/or White Pony?
So I was born in 1990, so I would have been very young when the album came out. So it took me a couple of years later when I discovered the album. Deftones were coming to Brisbane to play a music festival called Soundwave Festival. And I basically checked them out. They were amongst the top billing bands that were playing, and basically fell in love from there.
Nice.
Cool.
Easy story.
Yeah.
That's a good story, though.
So was this the first album then that you heard of theirs? Was this the one that your gateway into Deftones?
No, so at the time there was the fourth album, sadly Night Rest, I believe.
That's the fifth one? So which year was it? Because Deftones was number 4 in 2003, and Saturday Night Rest was 2006.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so
Cool.
if you were going to Soundwave, you probably would have been 16 rather than 13.
Yes.
Yeah. Like
Unless you
George,
were
who
me.
goes to festivals. Yeah. 13.
That's me. Yeah, fair enough.
Cool.
Awesome.
So you listened to the fifth album, you loved it, and then you sort of went back and worked out the whole back
I
end.
just
Yes.
went back and discovered the rest of it because I wanted to listen to more.
And you loved them all?
I did, yeah.
Did?
There are other albums. Around the Fur is a great album also. There are many great albums.
Cool.
So why this one then?
I felt like a lot of the sounds that you could kind of tell that this was a new step for them, that they were trying to explore with some of the sounds that they've got through this album. And I just basically really appreciated that.
Sure.
Nice.
Wow.
And it's the one that they favour the most too. Tino says that it's his favourite album that they've created. And, they've done 9 albums plus 2 like extras albums, but like their most recent one, Ons, came out the year of 2020, so they're still going.
Yeah.
And I don't think they have any breaks either. Like they've been consistently every 2 or 3 years they've been putting out albums. Like we've seen some bands where they just disappear for like 7 or 8 years and then they'll come back. But I think these guys have been together and doing stuff pretty much the whole time.
Consistently in 95, 97, 2000, 03, 06, 10, 12, 16, 20.
Yeah.
Plus they did in 2005 B-sides and rarities, and in 2011 they did a whole album of covers, including Drive by The Cars, which is bloody good.
Nice.
There we
So,
go.
Claude, you've been splashing on Twitter this week that you had to make notes for one of your favourite childhood bands.
Yeah.
Is this one of your favourite childhood bands?
Well, considering I've just written down every single album and my favourite tracks from each album in a row on half an A4 page, I'd say yes, this is probably one of my favourite bands of all time.
Nice.
And so, mic drop moment, I've been toying between a couple of these different Deftones albums as coming to bring to Flawless in the past, and I've never settled on one. And then Kelly here comes and goes, I'm nominating White Pony. And I was like, I'll take it.
I know,
There
you
you
didn't
go.
even have to bribe me. I like genuinely wanted to bring this album to the podcast.
There you go.
Awesome.
Liam.
Jeez.
Oh, sorry.
Well-
Liam.
Grant.
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 We'll go with Grant. Had you heard of the Deftones?
Deftones, yes.
Yes.
Thanks to the Matrix.
Nice.
And that was about it, to be honest. I wouldn't have.
What song from The Matrix?
I don't know, but it is good.
Oh, it's good.
I meant to look at
Something
it.
about Shove It.
Oh, My Own Summer.
Yes, that's
Yes.
the one. Yeah.
Yeah, Mine Summer. There we go.
That's from Around the Fair. Sorry.
Nice.
Good.
But then they're also on the second Matrix soundtrack as well, because they basically took the same set of artists and pulled one new song from each of them as well. But I don't know what's on the second Matrix soundtrack.
I mean, did you watch the second Matrix?
Yeah, I actually
watched all
I
of it.
actually liked it.
Oh, that was good.
I thought the second one I liked it more than most people.
But yes. So just from the Matrix.
Just Matrix
that was
hadn't
it.
heard any albums or no.
No, not end to end. Certainly not. So White Pony. Yeah. I was like, phew,
Yeah.
here we go.
There you go.
Let's dance. And it was about the same year anyway as well. So not on this album, but yeah, mine. What's it? Shove It. Yeah.
Yeah,
My Own Summer. So, Liam,
Yes.
other than The Matrix, had you heard Deftones?
I knew of them and I knew roughly what their sound was. Like I knew they'd been around for ages and I'd heard of them playing like your Soundwave Festival and your heavier sort of festivals. And I'd heard some of their stuff on the radio, but I'd never actually sat down and listened to an album all the way through. So this was the first time for that.
Cool.
Okay.
But it's not the first time I listened to this album all the way through.
No.
So you've seen them live.
Important story here is I was already obsessed with them because somebody played me around the fair in 99 and it was this hot older boy and he played it to me and I was just like, hello, I love both of these things. But I made this like really uncomfortable thing, like we were at this like party and I was like, oh, are you okay with the music? And he was just like, yeah, I like the Deftones. And then I went frantically looking for a Deftones CD without realising that that's literally what was playing at the time. And I was like, oh no, like embarrassing in front of the hot older boy. So I got into Deftones around the fair and then I went back and listened to Adrenaline, which is a lot heavier, their first record. And then I elected to take the morning off school the day White Pony US import came into HMV back in the UK
Wow,
with my
huh?
friend Hannah, and she and I went and took my Discman and we both spent half the money each on this album the moment it dropped, and sat outside HMV with the Discman with one earphone each, listening to White Pony, the first release before they added Mini Maggot. Just sat down and just listened to it all the way through without saying a word.
Nice.
Wow.
That was
That's a
awesome.
cool story.
It was really sweet. It was
Are
like
you still friends with Hannah?
I am. I'm friends with her. She's back in the UK.
Also, handsome boy, long gone by that point.
Good question.
Still a friend.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, nailed it, moved away. Yeah, that's all good. But yes, I have seen them live at festivals and I've seen them at gigs. And the gigs have always been big. And one of the tragedies of COVID was Deftones were playing Brisbane in March. And I had I had no money at the time, but my partner and I scraped together the money for Deftones ticket. And I was so excited because the venue was small for Deftones.
What venue was it?
I think it was like Triffid or something.
Okay.
Any venue in Brisbane is too
Yeah.
small
Right.
for Deftones, basically. But they're only coming
Riverside.
Riverside. Yeah,
could
they
have
could do
said
that.
Yeah.
But
Sure, I would
they
put so.
did. They were coming over for Download Festival, and because that was cancelled, they cancelled all their dates.
Right.
So that was a tragedy of COVID. Was I missed out on the one chance to probably see them in Australia. So,
Have you not seen them in Australia?
Not in Australia, no. I've only seen them in the UK, like a lot of times, but I've not seen them in
So
Australia.
you've always seen them in big venues then?
Always, yeah. Because in the UK, they're absolutely huge. And they charted, this album charted like... where were I can't remember.
So it's
what was
number
in
13
UK.
in the UK charts, number 2 here in Australia,
Wow.
number 8 in Canada, number 6 in France, and number 3 on the US Billboard Top 200.
That's why. And it went gold in the UK, platinum in America. But the two singles, they charted as well. So Change went to 53 in the UK charts, and went to number 9 in the Billboard, and then Back to School, when they released that, went to 35 in the UK. Like, so they were just big for that, for their sound to chart like that in mainstream music. Like, yeah, really good.
So Kelly, have you seen them live?
Yes, I have seen them live.
Nice.
Only in Australia.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen them multiple times. So the Soundwave Festival, I think it was 2007 or 8 that they first played the Soundwave Festival here. That would be my first time. And then since then, they've toured multiple times. So I've seen them at festivals, at gigs. I've seen them even in my newish hometown of Adelaide, which was really cool because it was like the venue in Adelaide. It's like they've got the mosh pit floor down, but then they also have a mezzanine level, which is seated because it's actually an old school, like, fancy Art Deco theatre. Oh, wow. I sat on these leather seats and I was just like lounging and just like my mind was just like, this is amazing. Also because I'm very short. Because the mezzanine, I could see everything. I could see the full stage. Incredible.
Oh, and they are one of the best live bands I think I've ever seen.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah, I think
They are
they
incredibly polished and amazing performers.
very good.
So how many times did an estimate then? And how long have you been in Adelaide? 2 questions.
I've been in Adelaide just over 5 years.
You speak as if you just moved there. But anyway, carry on.
It's
5 years is a long time.
I've been back. I come back to Brisbane quite regularly.
Okay.
But gosh, I want to say 6 times at least.
Nice.
I have travelled interstate to go see them
That's
previously
cool.
as well. So
Nice.
yeah,
That's
big
badass.
fan.
So
Big
down to
fan.
like
Big
Sydney or
fan.
Melbourne for side shows because they weren't playing Brisbane?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the Brisbane music
Standard,
experience.
standard, yeah.
Wow. eh?
Nice.
Cool.
Sweet.
Excellent.
Because I've probably seen them about that many times, but like, it was just and at festivals and like, they get
Bonus
things,
trivia fact: my first ever music band T-shirt was a Deftones shirt, which I bought
Nice.
at Soundwave. So
but amazing.
Awesome.
I can kind of maybe
That's
still
so
squeeze
cool.
into it, but I still keep it because it's great.
That's sweet.
So
Awesome.
the Deftones are Chino Moreno, vocals and rhythm guitar, Stephen Carpenter on lead, Chi Cheng on bass at the time, unfortunately he's no longer with us, Frank Delgado on keyboards and turntables, and Abe Cunningham on drums. And something I found really interesting is that just before this album, I read Stephen moved away from where they'd all been living. I'm not sure where they were living, but he moved to LA. And then, so Chino started playing it. So this was one of the first albums where he'd actually played some guitar. Before he hadn't really played as much guitar. And then that actually caused a bit of friction because Stephen was like, no, I'm the guitarist for Deftones. And he's like, well, you're not here and I'm here and I've got to learn. So I'm teaching myself and getting more involved. But it was interesting to think about parts of this album were written while they were still in separate cities. And today we just think of that as like, yeah, bands could do that. That's easily. You just use the internet and it's fine. But in 1999, that must have been like a completely different experience, like trying to record things or conceptualize things and come up with songs when you're in like completely different cities. It must have been, difficult.
You would actually have to send physical
Yeah.
music samples, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And download speeds would be horrific.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's fair. And also they this is where they put together a super dream team when it came to the people supporting them as well. So their producer, Terry Date, is also known for like Soundgarden, Pantera, White Zombie, Slipknot, and Limp Bizkit. Just putting that out there. Limp Bizkit is one of my first band t-shirts. And mastering with Howie Weinberg, who's had 15 Grammys of his own and over 200 gold and platinum records. So he's done everything from like Aerosmith and Metallica through to like Garbage and Iron Maiden, but then Mariah Carey, Madonna, and Prince.
Wow.
So
What a
like,
range.
Well-rounded.
yeah,
well-rounded.
but like has over 200 gold and platinum records to his name. So they got this dream team together to make this album because Around the Fur blew up. Like Adrenaline was kind of underground. Around the Fur blew up, and so they were like, right, we need to do something with White Pony. And as you say, their sound did change a bit here.
Yeah. It sounds like they grew up and really just started exploring more.
This is true.
So it was interesting that Terry Date, because he'd produced their first 2 albums as well, and they were actually looking around for a different producer, and that was at his request as well. He was like, if it's the same people working on the same stuff all the time, it gets stale. Let's bring in some new people and do some stuff. But they met with a few people, and they didn't get the right vibe. They weren't gelling, and they didn't have the ideas that they weren't the way they wanted to. So then they were just like, look, Terry, you know us. You know what we're trying to do, or once we know what we're trying to do, you'll help us know what we're trying to do. So let's just keep working together, which I thought was really cool.
There you go. They picked the right people. And it comes off because they got exactly the sound that they wanted because it's their favourite album too.
So how long? So the first version of the album didn't have what it became the first song. So Back to School, Mini Maggot.
Yeah, that wasn't on my
Wasn't
copy.
on the first version, but Kelly, you nominated the version with it on. So it must have been on the version that you had at the time, or
Yeah.
So it mustn't have been. How long do we know? I couldn't find it easily. How long it was when they re-released it?
It was about 6 to 8 months later.
Okay.
So they actually released. They only released Change in the House of Flies as a single, and then they weren't going to release any other singles, and they said that they wanted to prove themselves to the record label at the time, and just said, fine, we can release you a fucking hit single if we want. So they took their final track, and then they added like the rap metal, this, that, and the other to it, and then released it as a single. And it went well. People loved it, and it's been used in like various, like I think movies and skate videos and skate games and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, they re-released it. So then they re-released the album after that with Back to School, Mini Maggot as the first track, but Chino goes back and he regrets it. He wishes that he'd never done that, just because he felt like he was selling out.
Okay.
Yeah, and so wished they never done a re-release with it.
Mixed emotions.
Yeah, right.
Selling out.
And then there was a third re-release which had another song on the end. I can't remember the name, but another song at the end. So they're just like top and tailing this album like, all the time. But it was perfect as it was. So when I first heard it, it was track 2, Feiticeira, which means the sorceress in Portuguese, I believe. And yeah, so that was that was track 1 for me when I first heard it, when I was sat outside HMV on the floor with Hannah. There you go. But
Cool. Because Back to School is a really good song. It doesn't not fit. It doesn't feel like they've jammed something in there that doesn't really fit. So
yeah,
No,
it's
you wouldn't have known.
no,
It's a
I
great
wouldn't have
opener.
thought so. And I think because there's lots of bands that tie like the first song and the last
Yes.
song together and use the same bridge or same titles or whatever to loop the beginning and the end. So yeah, not knowing that, you just think, oh yeah, it's just a way of connecting the first song and the last song.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it sounds like now. But when I hear it, I'm just like, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
How old am I? How old am I when I'm listening to the re-release? But I bought the single of Back to School
Nice.
when that came out. I have money.
You
Cool.
say. You
Yeah.
flush. You were flush at the time.
Yeah, but I wasn't. What year is it? 2000. I was 15, so
No
I
one's
wasn't
flush
flush at all. But I was working in nightclubs and earning money that way. So and listening to all this music. So I've got, like, when I was listening to this, I was really worried No, because I've got so much nostalgia linked to this album that actually doing a deep dive for Flawless, I was genuinely feeling complicated about going into it and going, what if I don't love it? Maybe I just loved being 15, you know? So it was, I've done my deep dive. I've written my notes where I'm ready to go.
Cool.
So when they played for you the first time, when they played for you,
I mean,
did they play a lot of the songs of this album, or don't you remember? Because it's an intriguing choice to have gone. I suppose you go 2006 or 8ish, and you've backdated, and you still pick it.
I guess it's hard to compare, really.
Sure.
For me, I don't know why this particular album really just, I don't know, maybe it's kind of the themes or what it sort of hints at that maybe is what attracted me more than, because when I had seen them play, they had just released Saturday Night Wrist.
Yes.
So they were playing more from that more recent
Yeah,
album,
sure.
naturally. But yeah, I think I
Okay.
was just excited to be at a big music festival
Yeah.
for the first time, and it was just lots of energy.
Yes!
There you go.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Awesome.
There's certain tracks that they always play, like My Own Summer, Shove It.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, that's one of them. But they pull out various hits. So they play Back to School Mini Maggot when they play live.
So, Kelly, tell us about some of your favorite songs on the album. What's some of the things that you always go through when you're listening to it?
So I feel like I have a very weird way of listening to music. I generally listen to things in the background. So, for example, if I'm listening to it on Spotify or something, I will choose to play it randomly and just have things playing in the background. So, it's never really particularly a one song that I'll go, oh, I really want to listen to that song. It's more of a mood for the album more than anything than else. So I guess I would go, oh, I really feel like I want this weird, like atmospheric-y kind of like cool sound that I'm really just, want to listen to. So yeah, I guess I pick it more and based on what the whole album kind of speaks more than a particular track.
Sure. In terms of your mood, do you think it's something that you listen to more when you're like, sometimes you're like, we're up and we'll listen to albums that are down, or we'll be down and we want to listen to albums that bring us up? Is there a certain mood you think that helps you listen and connect with this album?
I think I listen to it more when I really feel like I want something that makes me feel good because of that nostalgia reason, because of like just so many of those other little factors are, it's something that makes me feel good, basically.
Awesome.
So,
Good period of your life and nostalgia.
and Grant,
Yes.
you never listened to this album all the way through.
No.
So what was your
An album
What was your
of
overall?
them.
Well, so overall, what was your first impression of what you were listening to?
Oh, I think it reminded me of that, certainly of the early 2000s, of the bands that I was listening to at the time. And like, I don't know, I'm intrigued because I find it quite angry, and like I've mentioned in previous podcasts, I feel I've mellowed a lot, but it brings you back to like the power of music, and listen, these are great chords, and this guy's belting out, screeching into the mic and all the rest of it. So end to end, just like an immediate reminder of what was going on as a 20-year-old. Sorry for the age thing, guys. Okay, I was 20, you guys are teenagers, and I was so I felt a lot older, and was at university, and in that space of probably drinking too hard and failing too many subjects at university, but still listening to all of this sort of music. So I really enjoy. I've got a lot of double ticks here. So that's for those that that listen regularly. Really, I probably struggled in the first time I heard it, but I had to get back into how I was really, because it's an album that incredibly is 20 years old now, and I'm like, geez, man.
Stop it!
Like, yeah, exactly. Like, really?
Carbon dating me.
Yeah. So that was me.
I do think it sounds 20 years old too. Like, it's not like we've done ones that we think would be timeless and they'd fit anywhere. But I think if they released this album right now, it probably wouldn't get as much attention because music doesn't sound like this right now.
No.
It's very much an early 2000s
Their newest
record.
album's got a lot more like electro sounds and stuff.
Yeah, and that doesn't surprise me at all. It's like, that's exactly the style that's right now.
Yeah. So first time listening to it, Liam, all the way
Yeah,
through.
I was the same. So I sort of did a bit of research before, and they said that they were a new metal band, which for me always equals rap and rock. And then on Back to School, he does a little bit of that rapping stuff. Like his vocals are quite fast paced, not full on rapping, but his vocals are quite fast paced. And but the beautiful thing is, and because that stuff always just reminds me of Limp Bizkit, which, not a big fan of, but there are a couple of times where he goes straight from a line where he's rapping and almost not singing into his full guttural scream, like on a dime. Like he doesn't build up, there's no space in between. He just goes straight from the rap straight into that guttural high pitched scream that he does, which just blew my mind because he's like he's supposed to be going so fast and thinking about the words, and then to just switch on that really quickly and just bring in that guttural, the metal sound. It was really cool.
But not only that, he also brings in the vocal range of a man who's sounds like he's sung in a choir. Like, so
I think that's one of the things that I love about Deftones.
massive
His
range.
vocals is the thing that really stands out to me. It just draws me in. Every time I hear that voice, I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, and in Change, there's an opportunity where he could have layered his vocals. So Change in the House of Life track, so on track 11, there's a bit where he ends Never Had Wings and then goes into the R's. So, and he quickens Never Had Wings and then goes into the R's as opposed to doing a layer. Like he wanted to sound like he wasn't doing dual vocals because that's not what he does. So he could easily have, carried on with Never Had Wings and then go, or whatever. But then over the top, doesn't do it. And I really enjoy the fact that he just doesn't, he's like, nah, this is what I do. But that comes after one of my favourite songs ever, which I have written quite a few notes on, which is Passenger, where we have Maynard James Keenan of Tool and A Perfect Circle and Pussifer and other such things. He comes in and just nails one of the sexiest. We were talking about themes. So Kelly, Chino sings about sex a lot, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and he sings about driving a lot, and he combines it beautifully with Passenger. This is like but it's always consensual sex. It's always like someone wants it, he wants it. It's like a conversation. So Passenger's definitely all about getting laid in a car and driving somewhere really quickly. But you've got Maynard James Keenan has come in and he is just absolutely beautiful, and it's two men singing the parts of this conversation of having, can we drive quickly to go and get laid in the car, which you just kind of don't expect. So of like Tool and A Perfect Circle I was massive fans of. So when I first heard this, I was like, oh my God. Like, I think me and my friend Hannah both kind of went, gawped at each other, just went, that's Maynard, when he came on, because it's just one of the sexiest songs, with that eerie opening, with the guitar loops and stuff, just for about 35 seconds before anything starts. It's almost like they're getting ready to get into the car in this journey. And then they hit this smooth rhythm, and there's this noises, which is fucking hot.
It's very Tool.
Yeah.
It's very like breathing into the mic and using the vocal sounds as an effect.
Oh, absolutely. And the way they describe like the chrome buttons, buckles and leather surfaces, these and other lucky witnesses and stuff, just the way he like combines those lyrics and stuff, just really, you're in a car, it's probably a really expensive like top down,
It's beautiful.
it's totally beautiful. It's really beautiful, but Maynard wasn't even supposed to be on it. He was just at the studio hanging out with them. And so if you've ever listened to Tool and A Perfect Circle, you'll know they're very mathematical, and they draw equations on the wall to just like to design their sound. So it's like they're really mathematical. And Maynard was just coming in to dick about a bit. and going, why are you playing this in 4/4? You should be doing this in like 3/7 and stuff like that. And he was like, let me do something. And then he grabbed the mic and started to sing, and they couldn't get it out of their heads. They were just saying that they couldn't get the sound of Maynard out of their heads, but they also didn't want to be that band that comes in with their third big album with a guest vocalist, like someone big like Maynard. So, but they couldn't get him out, so they actually called him up and was like, "Do you remember that song? Do you want to actually do it?"
Yeah.
And they brought him in because they were huge fans of Tool. So, and then it ended up making one of the sexiest songs ever.
So I think Abe Cunningham does excellent work on the drums on this song, because it's not. I think some of the other songs are a bit more straightforward drumming wise, like they are 4/4, or their patterns through the songs are a bit more predictable. Whereas this one is, it's almost Tool-esque in the music as well. Like it's off kilter and it's not necessarily 4/4, and there are extra beats in there. Like he's hitting the off beat instead of the beat, which once again is a very Tool thing to do. So I think to just tweak that style for one song, but still have it sound like it's your style, works really well.
I've got that in my head right now. Dum, dum,
Yeah.
dum.
It's awesome.
Yes, it is awesome, and it surprises you when it comes out. But yeah, I'm assuming that it's just like a sexy song. Ta-da! So,
What are your standouts?
So Elite is probably my favorite song on the album. Just it's that growling and screaming lyrics. Like he's really showing his range all the way through as well. Like he goes high and low very, very quickly. It won the Grammy Award for the best metal performance in 2001, which is just the way Grammy name their awards are ridiculous. Like what is the best metal performance? I don't know, but that's what it is. That's so it's like it's got the little vocoder vocals for verses, but for me, like the song is not necessarily about the lyrics. It's really the music, and it's just so barreling and fast paced and really well done. Like I was sitting at a desk and I was still tapping my foot along, and I just wanted to, get up and thrash around to it. It was so cool.
and that was literally a dig at the Elite. That whole song is like when you're
Here's a reward, a Grammy.
yeah.
Digged at the Elite, who then give him a Grammy Award.
Yes.
Because when I first heard it with the lyrics, when you're ripe, you bleed out of control, to me, that was like a woman menstruating. And then I was like, actually, when I listened to the song, it was just like, oh no, it's about the Elite and digging at the Elite, going, when you're at your top, you bleed. That's what you do. You fail at everything. So yeah, but that's reminiscent because it's so heavy. It is reminiscent of like Adrenaline era kind of Deftones.
Kelly, any other favourites you want us to? You sort of haven't said there's one in particular, but anything else you want to talk about?
It's just an album that just brings back a lot of memories for me. And I think, as we were saying before, when I first listened to it, because I was finally at the age, so when it came out, I was too young to probably understand any of the themes.
Sure.
But when I was finally of age, so to speak, but when I discovered the album, I did then relate to it. So even though it did come out many years prior to me actually discovering it, it was probably, as you say, it was that time in my life where then I could actually sort of understand the lyrics and understand what they were trying to get at.
So like from nightclubs and stuff, they released 2 singles, but they're not necessarily the songs that people played in nightclub. So Knife Party is a song that was played in nightclubs, even though it's an album track. Should have been released as a single, in my opinion. But it segues beautifully. So Teenager is okay. So you know how I was talking about older pretty boys. Teenager as a song was dedicated to me by at least 5 people for which there was unrequited love from my perspective.
So that's not a good thing.
No, they were like dedicating it to me and putting it on mixtapes because they were like, oh, I thought we had a connection. And I'm just like, well, soz.
Soz. Before soz was a word.
We don't. So, yeah, so he's heartbroken and he's trying to forget her. And it's just this unrequited song with harmonies in this one. And there's the DJ mixing on here.
There's really trip-hop stuff in it and all very synthy.
Yeah.
I wrote very Siamese Dreamish, Smashing Pumpkins.
Okay.
Nice.
Cool.
For mine. That's my notes on that.
And
then she had a squiggly and then it got a tick.
Oh, okay. So you were
Oh,
unsold.
okay.
But
I
then
was,
you
and then I was sold.
went in.
Well, it's got the lyrics. And I'm like, that's really like a really nice way of saying this is unrequited, you know, like a new cavity is in my heart. You've taken me. But then, as I said, that moves into Knife Party, where it segues in beautifully because it's that echoey, fuzzy guitar strumming intro into this wall of sound. I would say.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then towards the end, so I was sort of thinking, oh, this is a decent song, but it's it's pretty standard Deftones stuff. This is the kind of stuff we've come to expect from them. And then Rodleen Getzik's vocals start coming in. The woman a woman who they brought in to do some special backing vocals.
Yeah.
And just takes the whole song to another level. Like it just adds a whole new thing to their whole sound, which is really awesome.
Her wailing.
And she's not even like a she's not even a musician. She's not someone who is on a lot of albums or does a lot of stuff. Like she's a creative person. She does movies and creative art projects and stuff, but she's not a big musician. But she was the same as well. They were just hanging out at a party or something and they heard about her.
She was in the kitchen at
Yeah.
RIB Studios, and she was there listening to her friend who was playing bass. But she had made a cassette of her own music, and Chino heard it and just went, "Do you want to come in?"
Yeah.
She's like, and she said, "Only if my heart's in it. You have to play me." Like, can you imagine? Like, Deftones are saying, "Hey, randomer in a kitchen, do you want to sing on this song?" And she's like, "Only if my heart feels it." And then so she listened to it. She started listening to it, and then she just said, "Give me the mic." And then she said,
She just did it. She just
one
winged it.
take. She just winged it and just put all of that wailing and howling and screaming all over the top of it. And then Chino just had to add like little bits of and ahs and whatever. But
Done.
as you say, Liam, that just took it to a whole new level.
Yeah, I actually had no idea about that backstory. That's kind of really kind of empowering to know that that's if your heart's in it to really just go for it. Like, because there's so much emotion in it. Like,
Yeah.
Didn't even know.
And you can't recreate that live.
No, that's the thing. Like, what would they do with that song live except maybe get the electric guy to play it as a backing track or something?
I remember making a CDR, dating me again, of every Deftones song that had a female vocalist in it. And I put them all together so I could learn the female vocals just in case they were ever on tour, and I could just send them a cassette or send them a CD of me singing.
Lots of time, man.
Just
Please.
so I could say, look, I can sing all the female parts on the things, like in and around the fair and stuff. I'm just like, I could do
And
it.
you got the songs of Napster, even better, huh?
No,
one.
I owned White Pony, or co-owned it when but Around the Fair was gifted to me by an older sexy boy, and then somebody CD Adrenaline, but then I bought the rest.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. But yeah, so but in Knife Party there are lyrics which I just love, which are, "I can float here forever in this room. We can't touch the floor. In here, we're all anemic and sweet." And that's like something I want to just experience and feel and just whatever. Mind you, he was taking a lot of drugs.
Yeah.
So, like White Pony. Oh, do you know what White Pony means?
I looked it up and I do remember, but I don't remember what it was.
Oh, it's just slang for cocaine.
Yeah.
It's
But
just
they'd already decided on the name of the album before they started doing anything. That's what I read. Is that they were like, oh, it's a third album. They saw that phrase written down somewhere. And they're like, oh, White Pony would be a great name for an album. And they hadn't even come up with the ideas for what the album was going to be about yet. But they were like, no, it's called White Pony. That'll be great.
Done.
fair enough. Well,
It's a good thing all the songs were about drugs.
yeah. Well, Korea is like it's literally about his excess of like women and coke, and his obsession is both day and night with lyrics of daytime dancer, I'll come inside, as if to say, like, I'm driving down the strip and like if I see that you're open, I'll still go in or watch. And he was just obsessed with women and drugs, and made no apologies for it. But it was all paid for and all consensual, and he was just living his dream, and literally wrote songs about it, and like reference Pony in it. In the lyrics.
So in that one, it has my pet peeve, which is the American pronunciation of niche, where he calls it the niche.
Oh, the niche.
I hate that so much. So much. But he does it. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to get past it.
Try being English in Australia, and you guys don't say vitamin. So,
The other thing it's got is like this, the riffs at the start are just this chunky, bulky, like a smash to the, like they've used power riffs all the way through, but on this one in particular, they've used like a bit of that production magic to really make it like a visceral, grabs you right at the start.
and he ranges between singing, shouting, spitting, like that in one song,
Yeah.
like the whole thing, the whole shebang. So yeah, with that intro, it's kind of got that wah wah kind of sound over the guitars.
Yeah,
Like-
the wah-wah pedal,
Well,
potentially.
probably
Or a
the wah-wah.
studio trick.
Or
But yeah,
they-
we go the wah
But
wah.
it was either that, or I like to think that sometimes they record stuff and Frank Delgado. I like to think that he mixes it, like that he like.
Oh yeah, yep, he takes his peak. Because there's not, for me, like, because when I heard, it's a new metal record and they moved more electronic elements. I was expecting more of the hip hop style Limp Bizkit stuff, but there wasn't really a lot of that. Like, there's a bit of electronic all the way through it, but not necessarily the kind of things that made me think there was a DJ in the studio doing stuff, more that he took parts of it and mixed it as part of like a later thing.
And he played keyboards as well, because
Yeah.
there's piano in
Yes.
Passenger.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Cool.
But I had to mention in Fetishiera, I'm mispronouncing that horrifically, track 2, which is my track 1. The first time I heard it, the first lyrics of the first album are "Fuck, I'm drunk," which is like totally awesome. And I'm like, that is such a great way to say "fuck, I'm drunk, but I'm on my knees. The police stopped chasing. I'm her new cool meat." And you're like, "Yep, okay." So this is him being stolen by a woman, and this is how he's opening the album. Brilliant. So yeah.
Right. Any other songs you want to touch on? We are
You had double ticks.
running out of
I
time.
did have a couple of double ticks. We are just about out of time. I thought Digital Bath was great.
Yep, really
Absolutely
cool.
great one.
Just that super soft number, lots of really cool drumming all the way through
Yeah.
it. It was interesting when I found out that it was supposed to be Fetishiera first and then Digital Bath second. I thought that's it's a perfect third song. You go power rock, you take the foot off a bit for the third song. I thought for the second song, if it was a second song, it would be a little bit unusual. Like I'd be sort of, it would be a little bit like a whiplash of like, here's our power song. Especially if you're expecting more power rock, and then second song you're already like, oh, we're messing with our formula here, but still really cool song.
And RX Queen, I thought was great.
RX Queen. So Scott Whelan, uncredited. So I guess
Yeah.
everyone just assumes that it happened because
Scott Williams,
his voice you can't
Stone
really
Temple
tell.
Pilots, Velvet
Yeah.
Revolver. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so that one he talked about when so Chino talked through about the album that he said this was one where he injected lots of elements of fantasy into it, so it wasn't anymore. So I guess his first couple albums were about him, whereas this is more about his creating characters, and that gives him a bit of freedom to sort of inhabit them and sing about things he wouldn't sing about. But then I found another reference about this where he said he didn't want to talk about this song because it's about his wife.
Oh wow.
So I wasn't sure whether,
okay.
but that wasn't. Yeah,
It's
that was on a random website, so that may or may not be true.
Well, it's about a woman who's like addicted to drugs, but he stays with her until she ODs.
Yeah.
And then it's like a really soft, but you can hear Scott Williams in the chorus, but it's got this So where you think about the OD is where the lyrics are. So if this is somebody in his life or his partner or someone that's OD'd because of drugs, and he's also singing about his life of excess and they're probably all on drugs, then it would make sense to say, I've watched you go blue. So yeah, it's just like from that perspective, I just thought it was like a new kind of, like a new take on it of somebody. But also there's that more haunting kind of samples in the outro with these tinny sounding drums. Like usually it's like really full drum sounds and stuff, but it's like really tinny, like kind of noises, and then it just fades out, like as if to say like she's gone or something's happened or whatever. It's just, it's really beautiful.
Yep.
Oh man,
Cool. George, any very quick last thoughts before we go to final pitch?
No, I think that you mentioned Digital Bath, and there was just the really cute lyrics of you move like I want to see like your eyes do. We are downstairs where no one can see. New life break away. And it's like maybe that's him doing like a storytelling about taking someone down into a bath and washing her and drying her off and all that kind of stuff, or and then the fantasizing about like ending it, like electrocuting them both, which is like part of the story behind the song, but it sounds really beautiful until you know that.
Cool.
So that's stuff I had to mention.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Cool. Kelly, any other thoughts, or would you like to jump straight into your final pitch?
I think I'm ready to jump into the final pitch.
Go for it.
So really, it's an album that brings back a lot of memories for me. So I think start to end, no matter what order I listen to it, it just transports me back to another time, another place. I was younger and crazier and all sorts of things, and it just is, really brings back a lot of things.
Cool.
That was so sweet.
Awesome. George, final thoughts and a thumbs up or a thumbs down on Deftones' White Pony.
Well, as I said before, I was erring between this and Around the Fur as being my favourite album, because Around the Fur has one of my favourite songs of all time, which is Be Quiet and Drive Far Away, and that song just hits me in the feels. But again, I wasn't sure if I was going to love White Pony with Back to School, Mini Maggot, as the opening track, knowing that wasn't on my 15-year-old self's version. But of course I'm going to say it's flawless. What a ridiculous thing. If we all knew it was going to happen, it's bloody ridiculous. I've got 4 pages of notes. I've got lyrics for every single track on here that I would love to drop into this podcast, but we do not have the time. It would basically be the record plus us talking.
Yep.
So it's definitely a flawless for me.
Get me into trouble.
Yeah,
Copyright
we were getting to try. Yeah, but I'd be saying nice things, so that's good. But I just think, in hindsight as well, listening to it with Back to School, Mini Maggot, and then ending on Pink Maggot does actually work.
Yeah.
As a bookends. So I think, because then when you listen to the album on repeat, which is what I do, it fits really well to go back from Pink Maggot and back again. So it's just fucking awesome, this whole album. I'm gonna throw my notes away. Like, what the hell? It's bloody flawless, so go.
Awesome. Grant, final thoughts and a thumbs up or thumbs down.
Sure. So never heard it before. 20-year-old album certainly took me back to that time not when I was your age, but of that era in university days. I really enjoyed the book ending of it. I thought that was great. Although I struggled a little bit of with 2 minutes 35 in of Pink Maggot on the end. I thought couldn't tell whether it was a screeching guitar or his voice. I think it was really sold.
Yeah, I think it was both. I think it was his voice and the guitar part
Even
as well.
more complex.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I thought there was samples as well.
Well, there. So I wasn't particularly sold on that, but where I thought that, and it's funny, this is personal preferences, I'm going to say no because of Elite.
Right.
And because of Korea, which you guys both really enjoyed, and that's the screeching side of it. Mm-hmm. I thought that if you took those two out, it would probably flow better, and it just didn't. That's, I suppose, a really personal preference. I'm going to say thumbs down on that basis, but there's a lot of really cool music in there and great lyrics, and sex, consensual, and drug addiction. I mean, why wouldn't you enjoy an album like this?
You love albums like that.
Exactly. So thank you for bringing it, but it's a thumbs down for me.
Cool.
Liam.
So yeah, I probably wasn't inclined to like this album when it first got started because I heard it was all new metal and I was like, oh god, here we go. And then the first song did kind of sound like that, and I was like, oh no, it's gonna be Macho Boys. Although even the song's not really, it's more about being bullied and that sort of stuff at school. But I really enjoyed it. I was loved all the power rock stuff, and then his ability to the vocals to go up and down and all over the place in the song. There were two problems that I had. One of them was a bit of whiplash because they started going fast, slow really often, and I was kind of like you'd have your momentum from your power rock song and then you'd lose it all from a slower one. So I thought if they'd grouped some of the songs or just ordered it a little bit differently, it would have worked a little better for me. The other thing was I had a bit of trouble connecting to it, like lyrically and thematically as well, which I think comes down to, I think it is aimed at a younger audience. You guys both listened to it when you were younger, and I think it feels like it's aimed at that younger audience. And I think if I'd listened to it when I was sort of 17, 18, 19, I'd have been like, fuck yeah, this is the best. And then I'd have held on to that all the way through. But I think listening to it for the first time here, and it reminded me of Filter's title of album, which is really cool, like very similar style, very sort of power rock, high harmonic vocals. But I listened to that when I was 19. I was like, yeah, this is the best album ever. And I've held on to it. But even now when I listen to it, I'm like, this isn't as good as I think it was. But I know that back then I really loved it. So I think if I'd listened to this back then, I would have really loved it. But coming to it where I am now, I didn't connect with it as much. So I couldn't give it flawless there. But I did really like it a lot more than I thought I would. So that was really cool.
For sure.
I was wondering, I was really interested to hear your views, Liam and Grant. Because I knew that this was one that I would have brought forward myself. So I was just like, oh, I wonder what you think. And also the fact that we've got some double ticks and some likes and stuff from you two, I'm thrilled with. So Kelly, you did a good
great.
Thank you,
nomination.
Kelly.
None of the songs were bad. None of them I'm like, oh, I hate this song so much that I would cut it. It just, I didn't feel that connection that I feel like almost the album is designed to. It's one of those ones where it's looking for that connection. It's not the sort of thing you can just, oh yeah, it's really great because I'm not really paying attention to it or whatever. I really think it's looking for that connection to the listener, and because I didn't feel that, which is fine because not everything has to be for me. But, cool. So thank you, Kelly, for nominating the album. We really appreciate it, and thank you everyone for listening. We have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and we are Flawless AMP on all of those, so you can join the conversation, share or like our posts, and give us a rating. Every little bit helps us to find more music lovers just like you. As mentioned, we also have a Patreon at patreon.com/flawlessamp. If you'd like to back us, please check that out. Thanks again for listening, and we will see you next time.
Ejection sounds are often well heard at the apex. This is a good example.